I'm doing fine. So leave me alone, so leave me alone, so leave me alone. I'm doing fine. So leave me alone, so leave me alone, so leave me alone. I'm doing fine. So leave me alone, so leave me alone, so leave me alone. I'm doing fine. So leave me alone, so leave me alone, so leave me alone, leave me alone.
This eve. How are you this afternoon?
Man,
Sorry, I was a little thrown off there because the video was delayed. So
I had a little delay on my end too, but we are here.
Yeah, we're here. This is oh, you know what? Let's see. I invited my good friend Colleen O'Brien. She's been having some laptop issues. Let's see if we can hear her now. No, we can't. Still can't hear Colleen. So somehow the laptop she's been using all day for her, professional broadcasting job is now failing her. But she can just sit and watch until she figures it out, maybe, or if she needs to go somewhere, I understand. Terry, this is the first time you and I have spoken since Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
How did you enjoy your day? How were your snacks?
Well, it was anticlimactic for me. It was good to be watching football. That's my favorite thing in the world to do, my favorite pastime, but I mean, it didn't live up to the hype.
No, it wasn't really a very good game, was it? This was the first game that I watched completely via streaming, and it sucks that way.
Why? Just because of no commercials?
No, because the streaming kept buffering.
Oh.
So I would miss like good 4-minute chunks at a time.
Oh.
Of course, missed most of the commercials, the thing that we're all supposed to talk about the day after the Super Bowl. I did see Springsteen, New Jersey native.
There you go.
Speaking some poetry, trying to reunite the country as long as we all just buy Jeeps. But it was kind of moving.
Outside of that, outside of the streaming situation and the buffering and the lapse in coverage, it was not good for you, or
it was fine. Yeah, I wanted Brady to win. I wanted it to be closer, but there's just something about that greatness that is fun to witness. So for the first time, I enjoyed a Tom Brady Super Bowl win.
Yeah, that was the first Brady win. You weren't. I understand we've had our challenges with Tom Brady and all of his excellenceness. That's a new word that I just created just now.
I know. No, I didn't. I sports hate him. I don't hate him. In real life, if I met him, I'm sure he's a very nice gentleman. But I sports hate him. But I don't anymore because he's older than me. And anytime anyone is older than me and still achieving things, I'm appreciative for it. I hate the young people. And let's talk about something that my dad texted me like 6 minutes after the halftime show ended. I did not care for that.
Well, you know what? The thing is, me and your dad are probably in the same boat because I didn't care for it either. I said I was the old man standing in his yard saying, "Get off my grass," because I don't get the weekend, man. It's just never been.
Not my thing either. Not my thing. Chair, are you wearing a shirt that says "blessed"?
I am.
You're amazing. Blessed and thankful.
Yes. I'm spiritual today. I'm feeling like here's the thing, man. So I'm going with this whole new manifestation, being positive, maybe to make some changes in my life, positive affirmations. And they say that works, right? That helps you achieve your goals if you're more thankful and grateful, and that's what I'm trying to be right now.
Well, then explain why you're watching and getting angry about the impeachment trial. Because I actually wanted this show. I wanted this show to kind of turn into a little bit of an intervention, Terry.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm not honestly. I'll be honest, dead honest with you. I don't need intervention for this one. After January 6th happened, and we had all that turmoil, and we went through that whole process. I think that was my peak of anger.
Yeah.
And it started to kind of quell as we got closer to the 20th. And since the 20th, I've kind of been even keeled. And right now, I think I started watching the impeachment. I wasn't even really fired up to watch the impeachment this time around.
Right. Because the outcome last time was already pretty obvious. I think it's even more obvious this time.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah, absolutely. And so that's why I'm not fired up this time. This time I'm more of like, this is kind of like, I expected this, but it's like, it becomes comical at a certain point. Like the way that people bend themselves into knots and twist themselves in all kind of erratic ways in order to make this make sense to them.
It's weird. It's a weird thing. I'm purposely avoiding the coverage because, well, it's not really great TV, to be honest. It's a lot of people either slamming them or defending them, whatever. But the inevitability and of the outcome makes it less interesting to me. And then also, it's weird that to me it feels like years since Trump was in the White House. It's been like 2.5 weeks. It feels like a lifetime ago now already.
It's gone back to the regular days of American presidencies where we don't really know what's going on at the White House or in the life of the president. And so it seems like it's been a long time since we had something go on the executive branch, because we used to be so dialed in with every minute detail of it, second by second.
Yeah.
And now it's like we haven't heard anything from Trump since he's been banned from Twitter. We haven't heard anything from, really the White House of any like anything crazy. Like there's going to be a wall up. We're banning Muslims. We're getting out of the world trade. I mean, we're doing all these different things, but no, it's just business as usual. Because
government's boring normally.
Yeah,
as it should be. Like Joe Biden is he's a boring guy.
Yep.
He's gonna conduct himself. I don't know what Kamala Harris has done. I haven't heard her name since the day of the inauguration. That's great. Well, I never want to hear about what my vice president is doing. That should be boring, paper pushing work.
I gotta tell you something, Zach. So before we get into this impeachment thing, if that's where you wanted to go, since we're talking about the boring presidency of Biden, which has been all of 3 weeks. I saw something last night as I was dozing off going to TV, and I almost thought it was a joke, but it turns out that it's actually real. So the whole whataboutism that has taken over our politics and our country, for that matter. So we gave Donald Trump a hard time because he was golfing the entire presidency. Every weekend he was golfing somewhere. He was at Mar-a-Lago. He would leave the White House on Friday and then be gone all weekend and do all those things, whatever, right?
Right.
I think that was needed. It was fair. So now the shoe is on the other foot, and they're saying Biden. There's a controversy with Biden deciding to go to Delaware to go home to watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that can't be true. They're not. Nobody really cares. And then they turned it on Fox News, and they were saying Joe Biden is such a hypocrite. He's traveling to Delaware. There's a no travel order. He's going to infect thousands of people. They literally said he's going to infect thousands of people by taking the Air Force One home to watch the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, I saw that on. I'm trying to imagine, the pitch meeting where someone brought that up, like Biden's going to be a super spreader. He's traveling. He's telling us all not to travel, there is no travel order. You can go wherever you want right now. And if you, even during the worst days of the pandemic, when there was so much uncertainty and everything, no one ever said that the president shouldn't get on Air Force One. That is very different than heading to LaGuardia or SeaTac or anything like that.
Standing in the freaking line.
Going to the Chili's too. It's very, very different. So yeah, but you see already though, Terry, that they're having difficulty criticizing him. Like that's such a stretch. That's such a weak punch thrown by conservative media.
Eating it up, though, Zach.
Are they?
I mean, they play it on the air.
Well, yeah.
I'm not saying the general public, but there's a contingent out there that is like, see, Biden's doing it. He's a hypocrite.
Well, there was always going to be that contingent.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what, there was going to be a group that were for just decided among, and it doesn't even matter. It's Biden. It's just it's a Democratic president that just decided whatever he does, he's going to be a terrible person. So these articles are written for that. And we talk about this massive network that is Fox News, and it's the biggest. It's sliding a little bit, but as you would expect, it's got some competition now. And there's OAN, there's Newsmax. You know, for if Fox News is no longer conservative enough for you, but even on its biggest night, it's still a very small sliver of America watching it. It's still a very small sliver of the country consuming Fox News media. And I would say if there weren't 60 think pieces written every goddamn day about how awful Tucker Carlson is, there would be even less coverage of it. You know, every time I see Laura Ingraham trend or the Five or whoever it is, it's like, why even address their points? You know the points they're going to make. Why even bother getting upset about them? Yeah. Why even bother retorting?
I'll tell you this. So every now and again, Zach, I get this wild hair, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I want to be, quote unquote, fair and balanced.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the world from the conservative point of view. I want to know what they're looking at and listening to and how they're developing their ideas and their opinions. So I'll flip it over to that channel and I'll watch. I'll be like, I'm going to watch and figure out what's going on. And I literally, and I'm not saying this, you know, to be hyperbolic or to offend anyone.
Right.
I can do it for probably 3 minutes max. 3 minutes max. I mean, physically, like I have a physical reaction that goes through my body, and right on.
You're supposed to. It's supposed to upset you. Don't you know that they love your liberal tears, Terry? So for you to react like that is exactly what they want you to do.
Tears, though.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my gosh, we can hear you. Colleen figured it out.
Now that I have 16 minutes before I have to pick up my daughter from daycare. No, we'll see if my husband will do it. I had to switch to Firefox. I use Chrome for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was blocking my microphone, even though I allowed permission. So then I switched to Firefox, and here we are. I had everything set up. I had like my beautiful HD webcam. I have my ring light, and I was like ready to go. Then, of course, this happens, and now you've got my, you know, up the nose camera shot, and this is real life, folks. I'm so frazzled now. I was like ready.
I got to tell you this, Colleen, so you don't feel completely terrible about it. I've been doing this show with Zach since the very first show. And as I was logging on today, I was logging on to Safari. And Safari doesn't support this. So that's why I was like 1 minute late, because I'm on the wrong platform.
I know, and it doesn't support mobile devices either, because after laptop 1 didn't work and laptop 2 didn't work, I was going to switch to myself. No. So anyways, while we still have time, do you want to talk of something of substance, or what's going on? This is the first time I've actually like seen and spoken to Zach in years.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Good.
How are you?
I'm swell.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
One of my favorite Twitter personalities. I know we've only crossed paths a couple of times in person, but I just love you.
Well, I love you too. We did cross paths like very sporadically because we were working different hours for sure.
For sure.
You're the early morning lady.
I know. I'm on hour like 12 at this point of working. So, you know, I like you when I'll stay. This is usually my nap time.
So Colleen and I was Colleen's producer. That's what first brought me to Seattle.
Right.
Well, really Dave's producer.
Right.
Dave Ross.
Seattle's Morning News with Dave Ross. 7 years in, it's still Seattle's Morning News with Dave Ross.
So Colleen would be, you know, the face I would see every morning about like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had fun and became friends somehow.
Oh my God. So much fun. Like what I think about when I think of those times is just falling on the floor, laughing, crying. Cause that's all we would do is we would just joke and laugh and have a good time. It made waking up that early so worth it because we had so much fun on that show. It was creative, and it wasn't just the news. It was a ton of fun.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And then also we got to push our liberal propaganda into the air every day.
100%. Yeah.
Which was nice to have that platform.
Liberal media and my, my feminist viewpoint.
Oh yeah, that's right. Every day, Terry.
I bet.
A book or a blog called like something of manicide or whatever, like feminists are committing manicide with all of their beliefs and ideals. So
it's true.
Lovely.
You can't deny it.
I tell you what, if you have the capacity to sit in front of that text board at KIRO and, as you are, Colleen.
Well, I don't look at it really anymore. I just decided years ago, I didn't even want to receive emails anymore. And so our producer now, James, he'll just send the ones that are actually useful to me. Like somebody who has a question about a story I've done. I can't feel, maybe people say it's thin skin. I think it's just self-care. Nobody, I don't know any other job where you have to, on a daily basis, hear from random people about what a garbage person you are. So if I'm the only one who has to, no, I'm just going to tune it out. It's not worth it.
I'll be honest. So I remember sitting there a couple of times when I was first getting started, and I was feeling good. I'm seeing the text boards like, oh, that's a great point, Tiala. I'm feeling you. I'm behind you. And I'm feeling good for like the first 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden, just this random, you bleeping, affirmative action hire.
Yeah.
I
got all of that.
I turned it down. I didn't want to see it no more.
Yeah. Really vile texts. They'll throw you off your game. Like because they always tell you like, oh, get a thick skin. It's just part of the job. And they, just random people. I don't mean they as like your bosses, but you think it's just part of the job. I need to hear this feedback. It's a conversation. News is a conversation. But it really does throw you. Like it changes how you're reacting to dialogue and conversation.
Yeah.
It makes you feel lower. And so, you just got to tune it out. It doesn't have to be part of the job. And I don't know if you had heard, but our website too, mynorthwest.com, they actually turned off the comment section. It's done.
It was a pretty vile place.
Yeah.
And not productive. I mean, there was, it was because you didn't have to use your real name. So, everyone had these weird avatars and everything. So of course it just became any comment board of anywhere, like a recipe website will devolve into some sort of anti-immigrant rant. Yeah. I remember the first negative experience that I had with a comment board. I was in Salt Lake City, and there was this nice little puff piece about some town was getting a pool, right? A pool that was going to be open for the public 3 months out of the year. Yeah. Within 6 comments, someone had said, I'm not going to take my damn kids there because they'll be full of illegals. So pool to illegals in 6 comments.
Yeah.
I do miss the text line a little bit. I have to say, because I like being called names. I'm weird that way. And I used to. You mentioned that it throws you off your game.
Yeah.
When I did the show with Jason Rants, I used to text the show, and it would throw him off his game. So I would be sitting next to him,
sabotaging Jason.
Yeah, and I would just
on your show.
I would sense, and thankfully, like nobody knows anybody else's numbers anymore because your number does come up.
Right.
And I would just text something like vaguely anti-Semitic. And he would I could just see it. He would read it. And then he'd respond to it sometimes. So then my phone would be buzzing, him responding to me while he's on the air.
Did you ever let that out of the bag?
Just did for the first time.
Apparently so.
It was so fun. It was so fun to do.
Sabotaging your own host.
Sabotaging my own show.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. As you reflect on that choice, Zach, do you regret it?
There's many regrets. That is not one of them. That was worth it. Because he'll tell you he has the thickest skin, but one little text. Yeah.
None of us do. I mean, I've been working through that in my adult life. I realized a lot of my reaction to that and my need to respond to them and turn them around to my side or getting them to like me was just me growing up being told to be nice and being a people pleaser. And,
Mhm.
like it goes deep. I had therapy in the last year and a half. And so I'm realizing now that a lot of my actions and a lot of what I've done is because I've grown up to be a people pleaser, and I'm trying to reverse that.
Right.
Yeah, I think I can completely understand where you're going with that. I've had to have some conversations, some tough conversations over this past year. I think the pandemic has helped a lot of us to dive into some of that. Some of us that have, that have noticed it and have the ability to do something about it. And I know I have for sure.
Oh yeah. No, I was having that conversation with a friend of mine that, she was having too much time with herself and was finding different ways to pick herself apart. And it was the opposite for me, where for most of my teenage and adult life, I've been moving so fast, career, marriage, kids, all of that, just checking off the list and moving so fast that I've never had time to sit with myself. And now that we've had the pandemic and I'm working from home and things are busy in other ways, but slow in others, where I just have more time to think about me, I'm finding I'm actually liking certain things about myself more. Things that I thought I needed to change, I've actually embraced as part of me. So the pandemic, everything horrible aside, has actually been quite healthy for me. It's given me time to repair the things that were broken.
Repair, so you're fixed.
Well, I'm working on it. It's a work in progress.
I got like 10 times more broken.
I'm a recovering perfectionist, is what I like to say. That I think has gotten me into a lot of trouble. So
Terry, would you agree with that? You think you're a better person? We're coming up on a year basically since everything got shut down. Like, are you better with yourself? Are you better overall with your faults, with your strengths and everything like that than you were last March?
I'm different for sure. I think I'm a lot like Colleen in some respects. I think I'm a work in progress. I've really had to dive deep into some areas that I really didn't want to go into probably before the pandemic, and have tough conversations basically with me about me during this pandemic. And like you said, Colleen, I'm one of those people that when you give me time to be idle, I'll pick my own self apart. I don't need anybody on the outside to pick me apart. I'll pick it all apart myself. And so, I've definitely been working through some things, and I think I'm working towards being a better person. But I think I still got some ways to go.
Yeah. What about you, Zach?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I definitely hit bottom before I got better. I definitely had, I fell worse into alcoholism during the pandemic, but beat that for the last 4 months. So that's good.
Yay.
Yeah. And, obviously, you both know I'm in the process of going through a divorce. So personal life definitely took a hit, but I would say I'm very thankful for that. Actually, I realize now that a lot of the stuff that I was blaming on external things like the pandemic, whether it was my unhappiness or my idleness or my lack of drive or whatever it was definitely due to the situation that I was in terms of my relationship. And I'm not saying that I was the good one there, but it was just it was a bad toxic relationship, and I'm very happy to be out of it. So I am actually very hopeful about 2021. I just got my grad degree, so I did that too.
Yay.
But there's lots still to be worked on, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm not comfortable sitting with my own mind.
Oh, really?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had to go through the tunnel to get out the other side for sure, in my own way, to listen to my own voice, listen to the tension that I get when somebody disagrees with me, or when, usually when somebody disagrees with me, what I end up doing is trying to find a way to agree with them so they like me again. Like disagreement equaled, I don't like you. And so I would, and now what I'm trying to do is sit with that tension, allow it to exist, understand what it is, and then react, right? Before it was just survival mode. Like, ooh, like me. I'll change my answer if you like me. So that's a process. It took me more than a year to even understand how to do that, to slow down and listen to the tension and then react to it. So I mean, that all came through shame resiliency therapy and the theories of Brene Brown, who is like the shame queen, to understand it and to recover from it. And a lot of shame comes from perfectionism, just anything. If you think about what might make you feel shame, to be able to overcome shame, it's a painful process, and to be okay with it. That you can't get rid of it. You just have to learn how to be okay with it and understand.
Mm-hmm. It takes an insane amount of self-confidence too to do that. Because the reason that if I ever would describe any era of my life as being one of people pleasing, it was because I wasn't confident enough to think that they would like me if I didn't agree with them wholeheartedly, or I didn't agree with them wholly. I feel like that you really need to be able to believe in yourself to a pretty high level before you can be comfortable in truly being yourself and being comfortable with those sort of disagreements that you might have with other people.
Yeah. And to understand the root of your shame. Like, why are you a people pleaser? Why are you a perfectionist? What happened to you to make you that person? Like, once you understand the root of the shame, then you can start accepting it and moving forward. Terry, you look like you want to say something.
No, I'm just curious. Like, what do you guys think about? I understand that, and I totally agree with that being a reality for a lot of people. But what do you think about someone who might be a people pleaser or find themselves in those situations because of like self preservation or because of other motives? Like, I'm going to agree with Colleen today on this subject because I fear that it might harm me professionally or socially, or I might advance myself professionally or socially
Totally.
if I agree with you in these situations rather than speak my mind and let the world know and then find myself ostracized or on the outside or unable to achieve something that I've been working for.
That's interesting. Do you find yourself in that position a lot?
You sound just like my therapist. Answer my questions with another question. No, no, I'm not saying per se that it is me.
But it is.
I'm just saying, but yeah, I mean, so for instance, I'll give you guys. I'll just be, since we're bearing our souls today on the Anarchist.
I guess so.
Yeah, this is what we're doing, right? Like, I find myself sometimes, still having to bite my tongue in certain situations, just because I fear of the things that might come out on the other end, and they'd be like, "Oh, we don't know if we want to have Terry as our spokesperson or somebody representing us if he's the angry black guy." And I'm not the angry black guy, but like, for instance, I might say something because I've come to understand that good, bad, or indifferent, I am a voice for African American people in Seattle and the Northwest. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's kind of because there's not very many of us that have an opportunity to do the things that I've had the opportunity to do, the platform that I have to speak to the people that I speak to. And so I have to watch my tongue. I have to watch what I say, what I do, so that I don't offend that community. Well, at the same time, I still want a job somewhere. I still want an opportunity somewhere. So I have to censor myself at certain times. So one way or another, I sometimes find myself in those situations.
Yeah, I certainly, I think that you probably have it. You do have it a lot harder than I ever have as a woman, but I can relate on some level, wanting to be nice, don't make waves. I've talked about this with Zach a lot in the past, just like being a woman in a male dominated industry. How do you fit in? How do you not make waves? How do you not be the bossy one or the bitchy one? And the way one, it helps that I've been able to surround myself with people who support me as I am. But I think a lot of it is knowing what your values are and living those values. And if those values aren't supported where you're at, being comfortable with moving forward in that. I think you do have to make a lot of compromises early in your career. And certainly I have, to advance. But once you reach a certain level, you find yourself realizing that it's not worth the trade, that your values aren't worth the trade. of pretending to be who you aren't. And that is a privilege for me to be able to say that.
Yeah.
You know, I've been able to get away with being quite bossy in meetings and speaking my mind and standing up to the boss without repercussion. I don't know what it's like for you, Terry. But yeah, I mean, I think it has to do with understanding your values and living by those at all costs. Because that's
Terry,
how you live with yourself.
I think you're talking too, you know, you and I are in the same position where there are far less talented people doing what we would rather be doing. And those are the people that I think that you're speaking about a little bit. You have to pretend that everybody is good and great and wonderful all of the time, because the last thing you want to do when you're on the outside looking in is potentially burn that bridge, right? And, you know, Terry and I have spoken about that quite an extent.
Yeah.
You have to be constantly celebratory or supportive of people, just because in some time in the future you might need a helping hand from them. And that's sort of that wears on you. That is frustrating. So it's easier. I will say, Colleen, like, you have the gig, and you know, I have a gig now, but I was outside looking in for a long time. It was very enraging, but you can't really express that rage or point out the truths of things that happen, because the industry that we work in, media in general, it's small and it's shrinking and it's getting smaller. And
especially if you are in this city that we live in, and you know that you're not going to leave the city. Like, I'm not leaving anywhere. I'm not going.
Yeah.
They call me to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, because they got an anchor position for me. I'm not going.
Right.
I'm not going. So
yeah,
it's going to happen for me where I live, or it's just not. So
yeah, I was able to flee at least. Yeah, Terry, you do have that degree of, you know, that you actually do have to stick around.
There is some truth to that, though, about, you know, burn bridges in this business, because the person who's your enemy in one station is going to be your boss, you know, in a couple of years. So there is some truth to that. Yeah. And I'm sort of a serial monogamous when it comes to the places I choose to work. So I don't have a lot of experience hopping around and depending on the niceness of others. I also think that you have a built-in intuition, Terry, that you probably aren't giving enough credit to. I think that comes from experience and trauma, you know, from being a woman in media, from being a Black man in media. You have that gut intuition that you have to tune into. And sometimes it is worth just shaking your head and saying yes. And other times you'll know when it's right to stand up for your values.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But not to jump off the thing, but kind of to piggyback off this, to get into something that's happening currently. Like, what do you think about someone like Lou Jobs, who is obviously stuck to his guns for his entire career, and now he finds himself on the outside looking in because he stood up. He believed what he believed, whether he did or didn't. He stayed true to it to the very end, and it cost him everything.
Yeah.
I think he's the victim of a network that doesn't know what to do with itself right now. And if I'm looking, I don't think he was around regular Fox. He was on Fox Business, I think, which is weird because I don't remember him ever talking about business. It was just always, you know, Trump sycophant stuff. But that network is very confused. A lot of media outlets right now just don't know. They have no idea how to program this upcoming year. Like, they've been, you know, blessed in a lot of ways because of the Trump presidency. You know, especially, we'll just focus solely on cable news. Everyone's numbers popped. You know, Fox the most, CNN saw viewership like they'd never had. MSNBC even got a huge pop as well. And now it's like, well, you know, as Terry and I were talking about before you fixed up your computer, Colleen, like, Biden is going to be a really boring presidency. It's the hit piece that they had this week that we were discussing is, he is a hypocrite because he traveled to Delaware.
I know.
On Air Force One. Well, that's weak. That's very weak. That's not going to be a talking point for the months to come, right? So this Fox is really going to struggle to find new faces, and I think that they looked at Lou Dobbs and, like, the only reason people were tuning into him was to hear his undying support for the previous administration. And now that they're gone, what role does he really have left? You know, that's kind of the danger of It's kind of the danger of when you tie yourself to another person's star, like the way that he did. Once that star goes out, well, yours does too.
Yeah, that's why I find the safety of working in news is very comforting, because, you know, when you stick to facts and you report the news and you do your best to inform the public and do right by them, that never gets old. Well, I suppose newsrooms are still shrinking, but at least at the end of the day, we were talking about values and living by those values. Even if I lost my job tomorrow because the appetite for news has gone down, at least I can live with myself at the end of the day that I was doing what I thought was right. So maybe, I don't know, Lou feels the same way, that he went down doing what he believed in.
Yeah. I mean, he'll be fine. He's a rich person.
I was going to say too, like, let's not feel sorry for him. He's worth
never,
right?
Never for a second.
He's been in the game 30 plus years, 40
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
He's okay.
He'll be fine. It's the local newsrooms that I worry about, the ones that are being scooped up by big entities and wiped out. That's what I worry about, because when you lose local newsrooms, you're losing information to the community that's going to help them build themselves up and make smart decisions in elections. Like, it's scary to me.
How do you feel about, you know, the atmosphere, the environment we've been in for the last, 5-6 years, probably, maybe longer than that, where people, you know, distrust the media to the extent that they do? I mean, people have always had a healthy dose of, you know, whatever it is when it comes to the media, mistrust. But now it's just, it's taken a whole nother level. Everything, you know, is fake news, and, you know, it's contrived, and I guess they think that there's some kind of grand meeting that the station owners have with the program directors, with the on-air personalities, and say, this is what you're going to talk about today. And I don't know if people outside of the world of media understand that generally that's not how it works. But how do you feel about the status of media in today's society?
It's sad. I mean, I remember when those fake news chants started when President Trump was running to be president. And, you know, I just kind of rolled my eyes, and we would make jokes about it. Like, oh, yeah, fake news. Little did we know he was really hijacking that phrase and turning it against a really solid industry that is the, you know, foundation of American democracy. And it just got more violent, to the point where a month ago, I was finally buying flak jackets and bump hats for our reporters, because just covering protests here locally in Seattle, there's a real risk that they could be hurt. We've seen examples of, you know, a guy with a huge rifle threatening to kill a reporter down in Olympia. We've had, you know, threats called into some of our reporters, but they still go out and do the job. And it makes me so proud, but sad. Like, I actually sat at my desk ordering those things, and I started to cry, because I never thought that, you know, junior high Colleen, who said she wanted to be on TV or in radio, I never thought that this is what my career would look like. When I think about my mother listening to me in the morning doing the news, I wonder, does she also know that person on the text line is threatening to kill me or calling me, you know, all of these different names, and how sad that would make her. Now that I'm a mother too, I think about, you know, my daughters being threatened one day and how that must feel. So I'm sick about it, but I believe in the people I work with and the people that I know in the industry, that they'll keep doing the job. That's the amazing thing, is no amount of threats, even if they were, I mean, I've had somebody physically assaulted on my team, and they keep coming to work and they keep doing the job. So it's inspiring. I just hope it dies down. And I hope there are real consequences for individuals who are caught threatening members of the media. I hope it doesn't get worse.
I don't think I think it will. This is one of the things that I'm hopeful for. I think it will die down.
Yeah.
I think that when you cut the head off the snake, there's not going to be someone cheerleading that line of thinking for the next 4 years.
Do you always wonder, though, because we all said, like, when the racism came out, and racism's always been there, but then it really started to come out, and people were feeling emboldened to say racist things, and they were emboldened to threaten members of the media. Would you rather have that out on the surface so you know who they are and there can be consequences, or do you want them to go back underground and yet still hurt the people we love? Like, that's what I wonder. Is it good that they're out and about?
I think
No.
to a certain degree.
Then we know it's there. Like people
Yeah.
were so ignorant to racism. People were like, "Oh wow, it is so bad," and that only happened because Trump allowed them to come out and reveal themselves.
I think ignorance was bliss for a long time for a lot of us. Like even me, I fell into some situations where I felt comfortable. Like, okay, hey, look, we got a black president. Everybody's happy, go lucky. These are good times. People are smiling, and then under the surface, I knew racism was still there. And then all of a sudden, like you said, over the past 5-6 years, it decided to rear its ugly head, and people were felt free and liberated to say what they've been feeling and thinking, and it kind of made me uncomfortable. It really, I won't even say kind of made me uncomfortable. It made me really uncomfortable.
It was horrible.
But at the same time, it made me question every relationship that I had. It made me question everyone that was around me, and that's as a black man, that's a tough thing to walk around questioning everybody that's around you, because you look at somebody that maybe you've known for the most of your life, somebody that you felt like probably was your friend or had your back, and then they'll say something on their social media platform, and you're like, holy smokes, I kind of wish I didn't know that about you, because now our relationship is over. Like there's some things you can forgive and forget, but there's been some things that have come out where that's your character, and I cannot associate with you anymore.
You'd rather not know then.
I can't say that either. That's what I'm saying. I'm on the fence on this one, because I want to know so that I can make that rational decision. Or maybe it might even be an irrational decision to end a relationship, or to, try to create some dialogue in that situation, or do I just continue being blind?
Well, do you believe, can you be instigated into being a racist? Or is it something that is just part of you? Or is it something that someone can kind of guide you towards? Because I think that's what the previous administration did. People who never would have done or believed or said a lot of the things that they said and did, where we're following a movement spearheaded by a guy who, just ignored the phrase dog whistle, who just said it out in the open. So do you think that without that leader, can they be fixed, or will they revert to maybe the decent people that they were? Maybe not. Maybe now
they're embraced. I mean, and that goes right back to the shame resiliency, is nobody can be shamed into not being racist. You cannot be shamed into not being sexist. And that's what's happening right now, is if you say something racist, you say something that's perceived as racist, or do something racist, you will be canceled. You will be wiped off the face of the earth. You'll lose your job. You'll be harassed online. Your family will be threatened. You will be shamed, so that there is no coming back. There is no recovery for you to be an anti-racist. So that's what I fear. Do I think there should be consequences for these horrendous, heinous actions? Yes, but there needs to be a balance, because shame only ensures that person will continue to hate.
Yeah. And that's eventually I'm having trouble finding one that will come actually on camera and talk. Someone from the QAnon group. Hey, literally dating someone right now who is in QAnon and is back.
Zach.
Yeah. Today is the day of revelation.
She was isolated for 4 months during a pandemic, and then you get into this internet hole, and some of these things, for whatever reason, start to make sense because there's no one around you to tell you that this shit is crazy.
So you met her after she ended?
I met her 25 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, I've known her for a long time.
Oh, okay.
She's an insanely kind, like maybe the kindest person outside of my own mother. But for a few months, and she never did anything about it. She was just reading about it. Yeah. She never didn't go to any Q meetings, she didn't storm the Capitol.
I believe.
She didn't storm the Capitol.
But yeah.
The only reason I believe you that she can come back is because in high school, I was sent to a leadership camp by the local Rotary Club. Didn't know what I was just like, all right, cool. Sounds good. You're like a high school go-getter. I went, it was like a weekend thing, an overnight stay. 3 days later, I came home and was literally crying to my mother, trying to get back to this group. They had brainwashed me in as little as 72 hours to want to be a part of that group forever.
Wow.
Yes. And it was all just through kindness, and they called them warm fuzzies. There were things written about you that were so all over the walls. And it wasn't until like months later that I realized, oh my gosh, like it happens.
Mhm.
Cult, religion, whatever it may be, you can fall in as little as 48 to 72 hours.
Well, that's how they work. They either make you feel really great about yourself,
Yeah.
or they help you hate someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what took forever. It's forever for people to learn about Trump. Like, why do people like him? They like him because he hates the same people that a lot of people hate.
Yeah.
Like, I hate liberals most of the day. We're annoying as fuck. But that's who I am, and that's who I mostly surround myself with. But I totally get why someone would be like, you know who's annoying? Liberals. I'd be like, yep. Yeah, I see why you have an audience in front of you right now. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Constantly, have you seen La La Land? Like, we're just annoying. Yeah. So and that's what Q did. That was the strength of Q. Q wasn't really, people were connecting, but they were connecting because they hated these liberal elites that supposedly ran this underground sex ring where they also ate children. But
and it didn't start out that crazy. Like, that's the thing, is
no,
you
it didn't.
turn up the heat slowly, and then what you get is the Capitol insurrection.
Yeah. I mean, you got to hold people's attention too.
I guess.
Yeah.
So now that she's like out of Q, what's it like? Is she like, whoa, that was a weird trip?
Yep. Yep. Believe me, there are many jokes made about it.
That's the thing. So
basically, her family called her home and were like, you need to come home because every time you call now, you're just saying weird stuff.
Oh, wow.
But no one ever made her feel stupid or bad about it. Like I do, but in the way that I, in a very kind way.
Yeah.
It's teasing. It's not like, how could you ever be so stupid? And Q is not that big of a group, right? We're talking maybe a couple 100,000. I know that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of
people. It's a lot of people, but but it's not like, but there's millions of people who are Q adjacent who don't buy the whole list of lies, but believe a couple of them. And if we ever want them back, if you ever want them to stop shouting fake news, Colleen, you brought up a great point. The last tactic you should use is shame. The last thing that you should do is they already feel like outsiders to make them feel even more like an outsider.
I have a real question though for both of you, and because it's something I don't know why this popped in my head this morning while I was just walking around my kitchen doing dishes, and this just randomly popped in my head, and I was thinking about the people who stormed the Capitol and the people who are in the fringe elements of Q, and just and generally people who are far right conservative in this country. What exactly are the liberties that they feel like are being trampled on, are being infringed upon, or that they feel is being taken from them to the point where they would commit like multiple felonies, like buy a plane ticket to go to Washington, D.C. with all your flags and regalia and equipment, and decide that it would be a great idea to bust the windows out on the center of democracy.
It doesn't have to be reality. I mean, what caused the members of what cult was that to drink the Kool-Aid, right? Like, it wasn't reality what was facing in front of them, but they believed it was.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is it? Like, do you guys know, like, if they were to sit down and say, these are our actual liberties that are being taken from us. These are the things that are being stripped from us that we used to have that we're not having anymore.
No.
This is what it reminds me of, a parenting book that I was just brushing up on with my 7-year-old. And it speaks to that when a child is having a tantrum, you can't say they're having a tantrum because they, have a blue crayon and not a red crayon. You can't say, oh, but we'll just get you a blue crayon. It'll be okay. I mean, you have a red crayon, and red's a perfectly good color, but we'll get you. Emotion can't be met with logic. Emotion has to be met with emotion. So you just have to say, I'm sorry. Oh, I hate it when I only have a red crayon and I really want a blue one. That feels awful.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't say like, list what rights are disappearing from your life. Emotion can't be met with logic. You have to say like, wow, that must really feel awful that your guns are going to be taken away, or whatever it is. Like, I always compare these things to like parenting. A lot of it is similar.
It's true. Yeah. And then you're also talking about a little, empathy too.
Yeah.
So what I do, Terry, I have Trump loving family members. Like the more I tell them that Trump was an asshole, the more they love Trump. That's just human nature. But like, find one thing that you like about anything, or find, if you want to delve into the topic, then empathy, I think, is the way to go. Now, there are a lot of people who are like, I don't give a shit if they ever come back. Well, that's great. That just means that you've ensured the next President Trump, that they're just waiting for somebody else to come along and fulfill that role, to stoke that anger. It may not be in 2024 or 2028, but it'll happen eventually. But if you want them to actually become someone who votes because of issues, or even if they vote on emotion, to have some sort of logic intertwined with it, then the last thing that I read this piece in the Washington Post over the weekend, and it was about this writer who went on vacation and how upset they were that their next door neighbors at the place they rented were Trump supporters, to the point that like it almost ruined their vacation. Like, what the hell is wrong with you as a person?
Like, were they just outlandish Trump supporters, and they had like
they had the MAGA flags, but literally like the Trump supporter, it snowed there. The Trump supporters shoveled their driveway. And instead of being thankful for that, they were even more annoyed by that gesture.
They just didn't want to be around.
Didn't want any interaction with them.
I will say this: empathy, unless you know that person is causing real harm to somebody else. Because I just want to be really clear when I say, like, don't shame people, show them empathy, respond with compassion and emotion, not I want to make sure I'm clear that, like, unless that person is a boss, unless that person is in charge of employees who are vulnerable, and let's be clear, you also have to stand up to some people who are taking, whatever this movement is and putting it into real harmful action, not just, silliness, like decking out their car and MAGA flags,
Yeah, I'm not talking about the insurrectionists here. I'm not going to try to find common ground with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's, so many degrees of people that support at least some of the things that the insurrectionists were there for. Those vague ideas that Terry was talking about, the fear of the squad or AOC or Nancy Pelosi, whatever it is.
How many times has one side or the other threatened that your guns are going to be taken away? And how many years have Americans had guns? Like it's not happening. And when it does, y'all got enough to fight back. Like, guns sales are skyrocketing. I don't know.
You don't realize they've been falling for that same trick for the longest time. Somebody comes out and they say, "Oh, these crazy liberals are going to come and take your guns and your ammo," and then guess what happens? And everybody runs out and buys guns and ammo.
Yeah.
And the only winner is the guns and ammo company, and we're just sitting around with a stockpile of guns and ammos in our basements. But I want to talk more about what you were talking about, Colleen, and it's really the dilemma that I think a lot of liberals face, and a lot of us kind of middle of the road people face when we talk about empathy, dealing with those kind of people with empathy, and you got the red crayon and the blue crayon and that type of situation, dealing with the toddler. It seems like it's always just one-sided, though. I feel like, and I don't know if that's a character trait of conservatives, that they just never want to cave in, and that's just who they are as people. Like, there's, like, for the liberal people, that are out there that are listening, you know that when you start talking about, I understand how you feel if you give them something like that, they're never going to say that to you. Nobody's ever going to say, I understand how you feel about gay rights. I understand how you feel about abortion, and it's okay. Then nobody's ever going to say that to you if you're a conservative person. And if you're a conservative person, like in your instance, when you talk about you're dealing with a toddler, and you always say, I understand you want to play with your permanent marker, and that's fine. But sooner or later, you're going to be having to tell your kid it's okay that he drew circles on his face with the permanent marker and drew X's and all over himself, and that's not really okay. So where do you draw the line at with situations like that? Because they'll run you straight to the ground.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what are you fighting for? And, are you exhausting yourself with somebody who's never going to listen or care back to you? Also you have to set up boundaries with people you're having conversations with, just like in friendships. I've had friendships where I'm always caring for that person and I want them to care back, and it's just not in the cards. And so you just have to put up that boundary and accept the relationship for what it is. And either walk away or continue to be the caretaker and just accept they're never going to give it back. So I think that being in that position to constantly explain and empathize is almost a position of power, just like a parent and a child, where try to think about it that way. Instead of always being the one put upon or having the weight on your shoulders, think of it as a position of power. I have a chance to change a mind. And then figure out your boundaries. How far are you going to go to try and change that mind? Is this person worth my time? And, lean on others to do the work for you as well. I think some of us have it a lot easier. And so we need to do more work when it comes to changing minds.
And sometimes you don't have to work to change your mind, Terry. Just let them speak theirs. I think that's one thing that we do too often is, and especially, with Twitter now and everything, we don't need to engage in every single fight.
Yeah.
If someone says something stupid, just let them say it, let them say it into their void. Let them get it off their chest.
Block.
Mute's even better, because then they have no idea.
Yeah.
They have no idea that it's even happened to them. Yeah. But you're right, Terry. We always are the ones who are supposed to show more compassion or whatever. But good. Wouldn't you rather be that group?
No.
Terry's tired. Terry, it sounds like you need help.
No, I do. My therapy is until tomorrow, so.
Don't you love therapy? I call it a multivitamin for the brain. I just love it.
My therapist is so mean to me. I love
Really?
it. Yeah.
You need it, though.
I respond to cruelty. So if you want to change my mind, call me names and shit. That seems to work. Yeah.
That is 100% true.
Well, Colleen, glad you got your laptop all worked out and everything.
I know. I'm sorry. And my husband went and picked up June, so I didn't have to, and I could continue talking because it was such a delightful conversation. I was like, can you go pick up June? I don't want to stop talking. So.
Well, and good to see you. It has been a couple of years.
I know. It's good to see you too. I'm glad you're well. Congratulations on 4 months sobriety. Keep going.
Thank you.
Yes. And Terry, lovely to talk to you.
Oh, man, it was a pleasure. In person, too? I mean, we're in person. When I say in person, I just see the words that you type on Twitter.
Yeah. And next time somebody's mean to you, just send them to me.
I will. I will forward it to you. I will tag you.
Colleen can be vicious.
Nice.
All right. Patreon.com/Burns and Hollis. Share this if you could. Terry, we'll be back on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
And you can find this. Obviously, we're on YouTube. This is one. If you're watching this or listening to this anywhere, please go follow our Twitch channel. Terry, I'm trying to add new channels all the time. Twitch is still a bit of a mystery to me. Follow us on Twitch. That would be great. And we'll talk to you again on Thursday.
Sounds good. Thank you, Colleen.